on the air tonight with the first courtroom appearance from the son of the Hollywood legend facing first-degree murder charges in the brutal killings of Rob Reiner and his wife. What we're learning now from the medical examiner's report that we have just gotten in literally the last 90 seconds. We're going to break that down in just a minute. Then a key vote on health care coming up in the House on Capitol Hill, not far from where we are, in the next 30 minutes. We'll bring it to you live. Why it could mean spiking insurance prices for 22 million Americans. We'll take you there. We're also just a couple hours away from a big speech from the president, what he wants to tell Americans about why he thinks the economy is doing better than people feel it is. Plus, the literal mayhem, that's the actual charge, at Walmart in Mississippi. What we're learning about an investigation into razor blades apparently stuffed into some food in the bakery. And in tonight's original, the latest installment in our series on so-called shaken baby syndrome, with an in-depth look at how early assumptions in one case tore a family apart.
My baby is here dying in the hospital, and now you want to take my other children away from me. I couldn't believe it.
We've got that investigative report coming up a little bit later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and we begin tonight with some breaking news. The medical examiner in Los Angeles revealing in literally the last 5 minutes or so that Hollywood legend Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle died of what they're calling multiple sharp force injuries. Their son, Nick Reiner, stayed mostly silent during his first courtroom appearance earlier today. These are some brand new court sketches just into us of Nick. He's in this blue vest, which means he's under high observation. He is, of course, facing that first-degree murder charge in the gruesome killing of his parents. The only words he said the entire proceedings were, "Yes, Your Honor." He will be arraigned early in the new year. The LADA is pursuing a conviction that could make Nick Reiner eligible for the death penalty, accused again of killing his parents, with his attorney, his defense attorney, asking the public not to rush to judgment.
This is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We ask that during this process you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward, not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves.
It comes as we're seeing some new surveillance video. This is Nick Reiner at a gas station, apparently just hours after he allegedly stabbed his parents to death. We are also now hearing from his siblings for the first time, his brother and sisters, for the first time since their parents were killed, calling the loss horrific and devastating, adding they're feeling unimaginable pain. We've got team coverage tonight. Our legal analyst, Danny Savalos, is standing by. But I want to start with Gotti Schwartz in Los Angeles. Bring us up to speed on what else we're learning from this medical examiner's report just out.
Yeah, so far, multiple sharp force injuries confirms what we already had heard from police, which was that they were found in their homes, basically stabbed to death. The question that remains outstanding right now, though, is whether or not a murder weapon has been recovered. There's been some ambiguity from the district attorney's office on whether they have the knife that was used or the instrument that was used to cause these injuries, or whether that is something that they still have yet to recover. But you see these sketches right now. We did not have any images, real images or video come out of that courtroom because Alan Jackson, Nick Reiner's attorney, asked that his client, the suspect here, not be photographed. That is a request that the judge honored, but we do have these sketches, and they do show that blue protective smock. Now, we don't know exactly what that smock was protecting from, but historically speaking, here in Los Angeles, that is the type of protective smock that somebody dons when they are deemed to be a threat to themselves. So they call it a suicide vest here in Los Angeles. Again, we have not gotten confirmation on that being the reason why he was wearing it in court. Everybody around the case on the district attorney's side, as well as his defense attorney, being very tight-lipped about any motivations about his mental state so far. But this is just the beginning of proceedings that will last a very long time. And as you said, the arraignment has been pushed down to January 7th. So it could be some time before we get more details there. Hallie?
Also today, for the first time, we're hearing from Romy and Jake Reiner, the children of Rob and Michelle, obviously Nick's siblings here. And it's just such a gut punch to read how they're remembering their parents, remembering their incredible hearts and their big personalities, and seeming to nod to this idea that while this is an incredibly high-profile case, and so there is so much attention on it, there's such a big spotlight, to urging people to remember the humanity here. Remember that these are lives lost, these are lives cut short, and there are families and real people that have been affected by this.
Yeah, and here in Los Angeles, and I think across the world, people are starting to see the rest of the family, too. It's not just Nick here. It's Romy and it's her brother Jake. And you may have seen social media posts that are now going viral of the family spending time together. And you see their statement. One of the things that they said was that these were not just their parents, they were their best friends. And that's something that we hear over and over again. They say, we now ask for respect and privacy, for speculation to be tempered with compassion and humanity. That is something incredibly important as these proceedings now are expected to take quite some time. They're asking for compassion, but very notable there, Hallie. You're not seeing them mention their brother, Nick, at all. Hallie?
Gotti Schwartz live for us there in L.A. Gotti, thank you very much. I want to bring in Danny Savalos now. And Danny, you know, we heard from this high-profile defense attorney for Nick Reiner. I'm curious as to your thoughts on what he laid out, and then some of this speculation that has surrounded this case, that perhaps he may seek, we don't know this, like a not guilty by reason of insanity defense. That has been something that's been out there from other sort of legal experts, et cetera. I wonder how you see that piece of it.
Here's the challenge with the insanity defense, is that when you plead insanity, not guilty by reason of insanity, part of that is you have to admit to all the other elements of a crime. So it's something of a gamble. And the insanity defense has been very much out of favor since, and we're going back 40 years, the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. After that defendant was found not guilty by reason of insanity, many states raced to tighten up and make stricter their insanity defenses, or even essentially do away with them. So insanity is not used as often as people who watch TV and movies think it might be. It is a very difficult defense to prove. You have to show that the person didn't understand the nature and consequences of what they're doing, or didn't realize that society deemed what they were doing to be wrong. So if a defendant leaves the area and tries to elude police, that shows he knows what he did. Society deems it to be wrong. And as for Alan Jackson, look, he's a pro. You see him talking outside the courthouse there. He gives some statements that are really saying nothing and saying just reserve your judgment. That's the only thing you can say at this point when you're defense counsel.
Still, though, Danny, I think notable, and we've seen Alan Jackson do this in other cases before, that he's addressing the media at all. He is not, you know, running past and saying no comment.
Absolutely not. And as a defense attorney, I may be biased, but nowadays there's so much that gets out bad about your client. Maybe it is a time sometimes to get out in front of the problem and at least try to get a voice out there.
Danny Savalos, thank you very much for that. Let's bring it back here to Washington, because in just the next maybe 30 minutes, not even, we expect to see lawmakers vote on this new Republican health care plan that leaves out any moves on this key Obamacare money, these subsidies that run out at the end of the year. We've talked about these. It means that even if this passes, and it looks like it will, 22 million people are going to see the price they pay for health insurance on average double in the new year, according to estimates. And that's why we're seeing this Republican rebellion. You're looking at these four moderate Republican, call them defectors, basically, splitting with their party, joining Democrats in this kind of long shot Hail Mary, signing to what's called, I hate to use the lingo, discharge petition. You don't need to know that. The bottom line is it's like this push to try to get something done, to try to extend these Obamacare subsidies, these tax credits effectively for the next 3 years.
Look, we were really left with no choice.
We've literally moved heaven and earth. You know, we are rank and file members. We did everything in our power to try to protect these people that need help.
Okay, so what's the bottom line on all this, right? We're going to check in on that vote in just a second. Again, probably going to pass. This Hail Mary may move forward. It's not going to happen until after the new year, if it does, in all likelihood, which means, yes, these subsidies will expire, and those people who use Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, to get health insurance are going to see their premiums spike. One estimate shows a family of four, lower income, $45,000 a year, are going to see their premiums go up to $1,600 a year. Families making more money, $75,000 to $110,000, could be double that. They could be paying $3,600 more. Some 4 million people are expected to drop out of health care coverage altogether. Mel Zanona on Capitol Hill is following all of this. So gut check on the vote, plain English. What are lawmakers going to do here in the next half hour? And then what do we expect after the new year?
So the bill is expected to pass in the next half hour or so. It's going to have only Republican support, most likely. But then it still needs to go to the Senate, and there's no indication that the Senate is actually going to take up this bill. And I think it's also worth pointing out, Hallie, that this is an extremely narrow conservative health care proposal. It does not include anything to address the ACA subsidies, which are expiring. It does not include any money for health savings account, which was something that Republicans in the Senate, as well as President Trump, have really been rallying around. What it does include, though, are provisions that would require more transparency when it comes to pharmacy benefit managers and when they're dealing with employers. It also allows multiple employers to sort of join forces and buy coverage at a group rate or a preferential rate. But this should not be viewed as the Republican plan to replace Obamacare. These are just really biting around the edges of the health care problem. Republicans are still very much wrestling with what their plan is when it comes to health care. And that is why you've seen the frustration among moderate Republicans who have revolted and are trying to force a vote on the Obamacare extensions because they feel like Republicans don't have an answer, they don't have a plan, and potentially could cost them the midterms.
Mel Zanona. Mel, I'm going to ask you to hang tight as we watch this vote unfold. We'll probably ask you to come back once we get more on how that's going. Mel Zanona on the Hill for us. Thank you very much. Let's take you down Pennsylvania Avenue to the White House, because that is where, in just a few hours, you will watch President Trump give a primetime address to the nation. And we're starting to get more of a sense of the contours of what this is going to be about. No specific new policies necessarily, but more, broad strokes here, a case for what he and his administration have done over the last year, especially when it comes to what's happening off the coast of Venezuela, according to a senior administration official. And this escalation of tensions in the Caribbean, with the president dialing up his pressure campaign there, ordering a complete blockade of sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of the country. He said online that the shock to them will be like nothing they've ever seen before. This is after months of those military strikes that have killed at least 95 people on dozens of alleged drug boats in the Eastern Pacific and Caribbean. Remember, it wasn't long ago that we saw that Coast Guard team seize an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, with the leader of Venezuela hitting back on all this earlier. Listen.
No blood for oil. No war for oil.
Here's President Trump now talking about, in just the last hour or so, what he's hoping to get out of this blockade.
It's a blockade. Not going to let anybody going through that shouldn't be going through. You remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil, getting land, oil rights, whatever we had.
So there's President Trump there. Gabe Gutierrez, our senior White House correspondent, who is posted up outside the White House tonight. The president is not backing away from it. He has been hinting now for weeks about the possibility of land strikes in Venezuela. I know we don't expect any new dramatic, mic drop tonight on any of this in this primetime address, but clearly the president has taken the opportunity to make the case to the American people about this and other issues.
Well, yes, Hallie, and those other issues we actually expect to be the focus here in terms of touting his accomplishments on the economy. But yes, it has been very front and center here in the administration over the last several days. The issue of Venezuela, you just heard the president talking about there on the tarmac as he was returning from the dignified transfer ceremony. And the president does think his administration is justified in what it's doing to target drug cartels, and also, as White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles said in that Vanity Fair interview, essentially ramping up pressure on Nicolas Maduro. You see the video there of the elite Coast Guard team boarding that tanker earlier this month and seizing it. Now the president ordering that there be a blockade, as you just heard him say, of any sanctioned oil tanker going into and out of Venezuela. However, there still is a lot of pressure now, bipartisan backlash from lawmakers building on this issue. Let's listen to what some of them had to say on Capitol Hill.
At this point, we still don't have a clear idea of what the president is trying to accomplish.
The administration cannot keep their story straight on why they are there and why they will not release the video.
It's not pretty for folks in this body, very few of whom have served, even fewer have served in combat. Seeing people get killed on video is not fun, and they don't like the messy reality that we kill bad guys.
Of course, those attacks on alleged drug boats have killed about 90 people thus far. And the big question right now, Hallie, is what will Nicolas Maduro do next? At this point, we don't know what that will happen. The president himself has telegraphed, though, he does plan to do land strikes at some point soon. But again, we just don't know exactly when, Hallie.
as you say, we don't expect this to be the big focus of the speech. We do think that the president is going to basically make a case about the last year, right, Gabe? And so I have to think affordability, the economy is going to be key to that, because this is something that we have seen his approval ratings drop on over the course of the last year. What's interesting, there's this other, like, political controversy that's happening today over at the White House related to these plaques, right? These plaques that the White House has put up that apparently the president wrote some of that describe each of these prior presidents and, or, you know, say divisive things, et cetera. And you've got some Democrats going, wait a second, this guy's worried about plaques and not the economy. Like, this is what he's focusing on, you know, putting little blurbs about, you know, different presidents, Obama, Biden, et cetera, up. And I wonder, like, there's a broader moment here about the president looking to tout what he sees as the successes of his first term, even when people are increasingly saying that they don't feel successful in their economic and financial lives.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. Look, and those plaques, actually the pictures of the presidents had been put next to the Rose Garden several months ago. So those plaques that went up today, and yes, you're right, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that the president had written much of those plaques, and they're filled with insults to the Democratic presidents, calling Barack Hussein Obama one of the most divisive figures in political history, also slamming President Joe Biden. And yes, it's the president in some ways trolling his detractors, but also the president has to be looking at his legacy right now. He is facing backlash in terms of, you know, recent polls show that many Americans do not approve of his handling of the economy. Just 36%, according to a new NPR PBS Marist poll, actually do approve of his handling of the economy. You have other numbers there from a recent poll from NBC News. And so we do expect the president to speak about what he views as his accomplishments in the economy and to promise Americans that he will do what he can to lower costs in the year ahead. But certainly he's facing a lot of skepticism here. And the president planning a significant prime time address that he knows, being a showman, that millions of people will be watching, and he wants to get his message out there. Hallie.
You'll be joining us, I know, Gabe, for our special coverage coming up later right here on NBC News Now. Gabe, thank you. You can watch it, of course, that address to the nation on NBC News, on the network, here on streaming. We're going to have special coverage leading up to and after the remarks. I'll be joined by my colleagues Tom Yamas and Kristen Welker, 9 o'clock Eastern tonight. Also tonight, a new warning about how much it's going to cost to keep your house warm this winter, with prices forecast to go up by, don't shoot the messenger, 10%, folks. It's more than twice the rate of inflation. And if you heat with electricity, that's going to be your biggest bummer, candidly, for the budget situation there. The average electric heating cost could jump from about $1,000 last winter up to $1,200 this winter. Little less if you heat with gas, you're still going to take a hit. Brian Chung is tracking this. Can I just say, like, we covered this during the elections back in November, previously. The energy costs for people are like a real thing. I mean, I hear about it when I'm out in the field. I know you hear about it too. Like, this is not the direction people want to be moving in.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is part of the affordability story. Certainly, we talk so much about rising grocery prices, but the next thing you often hear from people is the cost of just heating your home and cooling it during the summer. But of course, right now, in the throes of winter, it is indeed very cold, but it's also getting more expensive to heat your home, despite all of this. So what's contributing to this? Well, there are a number of factors. First off, you do have the rising cost of electricity and also natural gas. So it seems like regardless of how you heat your home, it's going to get more expensive simply because of that. But then you also layer on top of that a lot of these infrastructure investments that a lot of these utility companies have been putting into place. In some cases, they pass those costs on to consumers, but you also have the impact of these massive AI data centers going across the country, which it's up for debate in terms of how much they've led to an increase in prices, but that is certainly a factor as well. So as people are thinking about these costs, which over the course of a season, as you just outlined in those numbers, could be something like $200 more expensive than it was just last year, some things you could do to make sure that your home is as efficient as possible. These are tips that experts give us. Change your furnace filter to make sure you maximize your warm airflow. Make sure that your attics, crawl spaces, pipes, they're insulated. That might require some investment, but it might pay off. Seal those windows. If you have south-facing windows, keep the curtains open so that it gets that free sunshine and heat into your apartment, condo, or house. And lastly, try to use space heaters, safe ones that have these tip-over cutoff switches. These are all ways to get around another potential option here, which is lowering your thermostat. Actually, in fact, the Department of Energy says 68 is what you should keep your house to in the winter, but I know people don't want to compromise on their temperature on their thermostat, so try to use those other tips, Hallie.
Brian Chung, thank you very much. In just the last couple of hours tonight, we're learning the Department of Health and Human Services is scrapping millions of dollars in grants to the American Academy of Pediatrics. A spokesperson for the agency tells us it canceled those grants because the AAP, I'm quoting here, no longer aligns with the department's mission or priorities. That's after the American Academy of Pediatrics has been really critical of the health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., suing him along with other medical groups earlier this year, saying his COVID vaccine policy changes violate the law. The AAP tells us in part these cuts could harm kids and their families across the U.S., and they're considering legal recourse. Dr. Kavita Patel is covering this one for us. So a couple of questions here, Dr. Patel, but first start with, like, if the AAP loses these grants, what does it actually functionally mean for them?
Yeah, this is about 7 grants in total, millions of dollars. The work spans a number of children's health priorities, everything from reducing sudden infant death syndrome, rural access to health care, mental health, early identification of autism, which is ironic given the encouragement on this administration on autism, as well as prevention of fetal alcohol disorders. A lot of topics.
Dr. Patel, I think I lost you for a second there. Can you also just talk a little bit about the AAP is one of these sort of trusted organizations, I think, for many pediatricians. You can speak to that for parents, et cetera. What does it mean, now talking about less the tangible, but more the political impact for them politically to be in this kind of fight that we've seen them in with the Trump administration over the course of the last 11 months?
Yeah, it's incredibly unusual. As you mentioned, this is just an organization of advocates for children in the form of a nonprofit. So it's incredibly unusual in this to have like this legal recourse, all this kind of back and forth. Politically, I think it means that there are now, as we've already seen with some of the vaccine policies, we're going to see a number of nonprofit organizations, physician organizations, and states, which we've already witnessed, that are departing from a number of federal recommendations. Bottom line, it's going to leave a lot of families confused. Even this message that it's sending that these are not priorities. Well, how do you square that when we know that autism is a priority? So It also creates an environment where if you're a researcher, if you're a young researcher coming into a career, it's probably going to make you think twice about entering in any of these topics because somehow they've been deemed to not be a priority of the federal government. That's a pretty bold statement in the United States.
Do you as a physician worry about any potential erosion of trust for some of these organizations like the AAP, if the HHS, if the Trump administration continues to do things like question their mission, pull grant funding, et cetera?
Yeah, I worry about the trust eroding all around with clinicians, with organizations, and with the federal government. And when you have that, that's when you have chaos, especially in times of crisis like the one we're in right now, where we're seeing measles and a number of other public health problems. We need to come together. All of this disagreement and unfortunate kind of arguments about what's right and what's wrong is actually leaving the public in poor health.
Dr. Kavita Patel, we're glad to have you breaking that down for us tonight. Thank you very much. We've got to get to some other developing news late today with the associate of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, asking a federal court to toss out her sex trafficking conviction from 2021. Maxwell says in her filing that substantial evidence has emerged, she says, showing she didn't get a fair trial. Remember, Maxwell was given that 20-year prison sentence for sex trafficking minors. And this, let's talk about what this is, right? Remember, she went all the way up to the Supreme Court to try to get her sentence overturned or to get an appeal. Didn't happen. This is kind of a last-ditch push now, right? As the Justice Department is up against a deadline to publicly release the Epstein files that it has by this Friday. I want to bring in Reiner, who's joining us now. Okay, let's start with Ghislaine Maxwell here. When she says there's substantial evidence that has emerged, what is she talking about?
Well, it's a pro se filing, so what that indicates.
What does that even mean?
So what that indicates is now she has access to a law library apparently at her new facility because this is something she wrote on her own. She's doing this on her own without a lawyer. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So she really did write this filing.
Exactly. And I think that also speaks to the last-ditch effort that this really is because normally you would sort of go through a lawyer here, and it's unclear if if they thought this was actually enough evidence. But she sort of wants to go for it. These sort of pro se filings are pretty common on the federal docket, and often they're just tossed very quickly because it isn't necessarily backed by the best or most reasoned arguments because these are people aren't lawyers. That's not to say that some prisoners don't develop their own very great set of legal skills, but that's not normally how these cases are.
So how would you handicap her chances here then?
It's a stretch. I mean, they're saying that there's more information out there. I mean, it's certainly, I think she doesn't have a lot to lose. Certainly, it doesn't really hurt to throw it out there to make that argument. And it's not like this bans her from doing it down the line. But I think that, if you see a pro se filing, you usually kind of say, is this one that's going to be necessarily successful? One of the pieces of the many layers around the renewed attention on the Epstein case in the era of the Trump administration are those officials who are now serving in the Trump administration who had previously fanned the flames of conspiracy theories around Jeffrey Epstein, who then got into the administration, said I'm thinking of Kash Patel, for example, said, okay, there's he did die by suicide, for example. There is nothing here to suggest whatever. Dan Bongino, Deputy FBI Director, we are learning in the last literally 8 minutes, he is leaving that position. Yes. After some tensions, in part, around some of this stuff. Talk us through this. Yeah, I mean, and he's sort of commented on this in Fox News. And by the way, this is his tweet or whatever online X post in the last, you can see it, in the last 6 minutes here, 9 minutes about this too. Real breaking news. But yeah, when he started out before he came to DOJ, he was in this sort of podcast realm, and he was saying a lot of sort of really inflammatory things and making a lot of suggestions that weren't necessarily backed up by evidence. And then, when he came into the Justice Department, or rather the FBI, one of the first things that he really leaned in on was the pipe bomber case. And I think that that's something that he sort of will now try to take credit for and say, we got this to January 6th. Right. Exactly. Right. But, what got him interested in that was that he was fueling these conspiracy theories about the pipe bomb, that maybe this was a government setup. So it is just fascinating, as you're pointing out, to have these individuals who are very into these conspiracy theories then sort of getting inside and being like, well, maybe this wasn't exactly what I thought it was from the outside. He didn't even last a year in this position, though. Is that unusual to see the deputy director leave after that shorter period? It's unusual to have a podcaster in there in the first place in that position. And I think that, certainly it's usually a person who is a career employee who knows what's going on. But certainly it's a very lucrative other side of the bar here. He's not making a huge salary right now as the deputy director or co-deputy director. He's going to make a lot of money when he goes back to the podcast. Well, he is. I was just pulling this up because President Trump, I want to make sure I get this quote right on my computer over here, that President Trump was asked just a little bit ago, did Dan Bongino tell you why he's leaving the FBI? And the president said, he did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show. Yeah. He wants to get back to the podcast. And his family. He's also, that's been a theme ongoing, that he's been away from them. But the money doesn't hurt. Certainly. Ryan Riley, thank you very much for covering all this for us tonight. I appreciate it. We've got much more to get to here on the show, including officials in Rhode Island releasing new pictures today, new images, more of them, in connection with that deadly shooting at Brown University. What we're now learning about a potential second person of interest. Plus, how a tow truck driver in California ended up pulling away with a 4-year-old. That's next. New developments tonight into an investigation on razor blades stuffed into some things at Walmarts in Mississippi. This is a story that seems too, honestly, wild to be true. Police have a suspect in custody now. You see her here walking into the store. She's accused of planting razor blades like this into bread at Walmart bakeries, 2 of them, with customers finding them in loaves of bread or in muffins over the past couple of weeks. Walmart says they've removed and inspected all the products that could have been affected, and the customers who bought something they're worried about can return it and get their money back. Now this suspect is charged with attempted mayhem. That's literally the charge, mayhem, with a bond of $100,000. Jesse Kirsch is covering this one for us. This feels like one of those things that you hear at Halloween of oh, careful, that's not. This really happened, right? And it's happened to multiple people in this particular city in Mississippi. Tell us more about it, because it's so bizarre.
Yeah, and Hallie, what makes this further concerning is police tell us that the first reported incident happened over a week before police were notified. And it took time because this happened at multiple locations, multiple incidents over multiple days. So it took time, it appears, for Walmart to connect the dots and realize there was something broader potentially going on here. But just speaks to the fact that there may be people, police say, who have purchased something and may not have realized that this has a razor blade in it yet. So they are asking people to continue to be vigilant, better safe than sorry in that community. And by the way, beyond razor blades, there's at least one fish hook that police say was found in an item. And you see right there the suspect who is now facing the charge of attempted mayhem. We're told she is someone who does not have a tie to that community in Biloxi, Mississippi, not someone who is known to police in that community. And I asked police how they were able to track this person down, and it goes back to surveillance footage police say that they reviewed. Here's part of what a lieutenant from the police department shared with us earlier.
One particular individual was observed spending quite a significant amount of time in that area, messing around with several items displayed for sale, not purchasing any of those items.
So police say they put out images of this person, and in about an hour, right around an hour, police say that's all it took for them to be directed to this individual and to complete an arrest, Hallie.
Jesse Kirsch following all those details for us tonight. Jesse, thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, new images have been released in that Brown University shooting, with investigators saying that this person was in proximity, quote unquote, so near the other person of interest they're looking for. They want to talk to this person. They're not accused of any wrongdoing. Remember, 2 students were killed in the attack over the weekend. 6 of the people hurt are still in the hospital, and the manhunt for this attacker is hitting now its 6th day, getting close to it at least. Number 2, the surviving suspect in the Bondi Beach shooting in Australia has formally been charged today. Among them, 15 counts of murder as well as terrorism. Police say the 24-year-old's alleged attack on a Hanukkah event, the 24-year-old who's accused of attacking this Hanukkah event was inspired by ISIS. His father was shot dead by police. The charges come as hundreds of people gathered for the first funerals of the victims killed in the massacre. Number 3, new video showing a car being towed, and guess who's inside? A 4-year-old kiddo. You can see the father come up to the window and start banging. The driver just goes down the street, takes off. Attorneys for the father say the little girl fell out of the car, which is so scary, but fortunately she's expected to be okay. The driver is now facing charges of child neglect. Number 4, the Louvre is partially back open today, but union workers are still striking. We first told you about this earlier in the week when all visitors were turned away. Union employees are walking out over what they say are poor working conditions and long overdue renovations that are needed. That's after, of course, October's high-profile jewelry heist, so a lot of drama at the Louvre. Number 5, Netflix is announcing another partnership with this time with Barstool Sports. This is, of course, this guy's company, Dave Portnoy. This multi-year deal gives Netflix exclusive video rights to 3 of Barstool's most popular pods starting next year. Netflix recently did similar deals with Spotify and iHeartMedia. They've also, of course, been busy trying to acquire a big part of Warner Brothers Discovery. Still ahead, speaking of streaming, a pretty stunning move from the Oscars, why Hollywood's biggest awards show is abandoning broadcast TV. Plus, the quick thinking at one Arizona high school that ended up saving the life of a teenager. We've got that video next. So one of the biggest TV moments of the year is not going to be on TV. At least not your traditional linear TV, as we're learning today that the Oscars are shifting to streaming. They're going to be on YouTube starting in 2029. That is a big deal. That is historic. ABC has been broadcasting the Oscars since the 70s. Although NBC was the OG, we did the first Oscars broadcast back in 1953. But honestly, for all those decades, it's been on broadcast TV, at least till now, or a couple years from now. So why is the Academy doing it? They say that this move is going to allow us to expand access, in their words, to the work of the Academy to the largest worldwide audience possible. Chloe Malas is following this one for us. So, Chloe, that quote is super interesting. Let me pull up the graphic that you know I'm obsessed with about the most watched TV broadcasts last year. Tons of football, tons of live sports. But look at number 74, the 74th most watched live broadcast. That was the Oscars. It seems like the Academy is making a bet, Chloe, that streaming, YouTube, et cetera, is going to help them beat those numbers.
I mean, who knows if they're actually going to move up from the 74 spot, Hallie, and I agree. That is a really great graphic. A lot of football, right? Especially in my house. But they are really looking towards the people that are the cord cutters, those that are not leaning into linear television anymore. I mean, look, I know amongst my mom friends, when I say I'm covering the Oscars, they're like, oh, that's tonight? I mean, look, still millions of people watch, but it's not that appointment television like back in the day when you saw Billy Crystal hosting. You know, you're just not seeing it anymore, and you're seeing so many people lean in to YouTube TV. I mean, where are people watching their movie trailers? You know, the latest that's on television on YouTube. And I think that, you know, this just reflects the change in which broadcast television is just not what it once was. I mean, even look to Netflix right now, where they are looking to buy Warner Brothers Studios if that deal goes through, right? Who would have ever thought that Netflix
Netflix, they would be this streaming giant that they are today and actually buying the storied Hollywood studio. So I think you got to look at new audiences. Where are people watching content right now? And it really is YouTube and YouTube TV. So we'll just have to see what happens. And does that mean that my mom now is going to have to figure out how to get on YouTube and YouTube
She should already
TV?
be there, girl. We're going to get your mom on it.
She's
okay?
not, but she loves the Oscars, and I know she's going to have to find a way to watch for sure.
She's got a few years, 2029. We'll see her then. We'll see you then. Consider yourself booked and busy. Chloe Malas, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of other stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Northeast Bureau, a huge fire partially collapsed this Jewish bakery in Brooklyn early this morning. 3 people were hurt. A firefighter ended up trapped. Fortunately, that firefighter was okay. Everyone else is expected to recover. There's no reason, according to officials, to think it was arson at this point. They consider the cause to be under investigation. Out of our Western Bureau, real active heroism at a high school in Phoenix. Surveillance cameras catching the moment a student starts choking and then collapses. And then you see the school security guard jump into action, basically picks this student up, starts performing the Heimlich, saving her life. He wasn't even supposed to be working that day. Just incredible. A lot of kudos to him. And out of our Southern Bureau, a pretty special moment at a college graduation in Florida. A student getting his day in the sun decades after first setting foot on campus. That roaring applause was for Roberto Fernandez, age 85, who enrolled at FIU back in 1972 but wasn't able to finish his degree. He found out he needed just one more class to graduate a few years back, so he hit the books. He calls graduating from college his life goal, and it is a goal that he has now achieved. Very cool. Coming up on the show, much more to get to, including a rare behind-the-scenes look at First Lady Melania Trump, why her new documentary is already causing some consternation even before it's released. That's next. First Lady Melania Trump is offering this pretty interesting and pretty rare look behind the curtain in an upcoming documentary, her documentary, with the first trailer dropping today. Look at this.
Here we go again.
You can come in. Don't worry. My proudest legacy will be that of peacemaker.
Peacemaker under the fire.
First Lady Melania Trump there breaking the fourth wall, showing some of this behind-the-scenes action with this doc. It's aptly titled Melania, set to come out at the end of next month, taking people through the 20 days leading up to the inauguration, her journey back to the White House, etc. It's a collaboration with Amazon MGM Studios, and it'll roll out on Prime Video after being in theaters. There's an interesting directorial choice as well, which our chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander will get into. So interesting here, Peter, because it's not often we see something like this. The First Lady, who is currently in office, right, a sitting First Lady, pulling back the curtain like this, clearly trying to show that she is involved in some of these critical moments around her husband, around the presidency. And then you've got this very intentional, it seems, and somewhat controversial choice of director.
Well, let's start with the latter half of that question, which is specifically Brett Ratner, the director. As you know, Melania is going to mark his first major project.
Peter. I'm sorry. I know.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
No doubt. Since 2017, when, of course, he was accused of sexual misconduct by numerous women, Ratner has denied the allegations here because of Ratner's involvement in this. President Trump reportedly pushed the Ellison family for Rush Hour 4, that long-shelved sequel that was to star Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. The Ellisons apparently listened. Paramount worked out a deal to make that movie. But specific to this, the First Lady who signed this multi-million-dollar deal with Amazon is also an executive producer of the project, which in effect makes it clear that this is with her full participation. She appears to have editorial control here. She's largely been under the radar during her husband's second term. She has indicated that a lot of her focus for the first 10 months of this term has been on this documentary, though she has been more visible, we should note, in recent weeks ahead of its release. The early clips, though, to your point, Hallie, they really frame her, not surprisingly, in a flattering light. They present her as this independent thinker, a trusted advisor to her husband, at one point even offering him feedback, tweaking a script as he rehearses his speech. Here's part of the trailer just released.
Hi, Mr. President. Congratulations.
Did you watch it?
I did not. Yeah, I will see it on the news.
There you go. The doc intended to pull back the curtain on her experiences visiting with the resident staff at Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower as well, and having lunch with friends. We'll see it all soon. Hallie?
What is your sense, Peter, just having covered this administration for 2 terms now, what is her end game here? Do we have any sense of that, or at least, could we posit anything on that? Because it does feel like it is, very much a public relations effort on her part.
I would propose that in a White House where President Trump is sort of the communicator-in-chief, this is her chance to write her own story, and she's going to do it in a very high-profile, heavily produced way. So we'll see soon.
Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander, aptly game on that 19-part question. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you. We'll see you later on tonight. Thanks. Coming up, we've got much more to get to here on the show, including an NBC News exclusive. This multi-part investigation we've been bringing you here on the show. Coming up, how allegations of abuse tore one family apart, even after the parents were cleared of any wrongdoing. Dan Slepian will join us next. To tonight's Original Now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight it's our continuing coverage of so-called shaken baby syndrome, the growing debate over the diagnosis. And tonight, in one family's case, how an early assumption from medical professionals can tear people apart. We're focusing on this couple in New York, never arrested or charged with a crime. But as their child was dying from an illness, a family court removed the mother's other 4 children from their home. It took nearly a year to get those kids back, with the couple having to fight even after the autopsy cleared them of wrongdoing. Here's Dan Slepian.
That's my baby. Yeah.
On November 23rd, 2021, Empress Azani Johnson was born.
Daddy, baby.
Tell me how that feels to hold your new baby.
It's phenomenal, man. You see this little person come out looking like you.
Her parents, John and Tiffany, had met a year earlier. Tiffany, already a mother of 4. They brought Empress home, joining her 4 siblings. They say the house felt full and happy.
You just saw the new energy that she brought into the household.
Shortly after Empress's first birthday, the flu was sweeping through their house.
When she started throwing up, I'm like, oh no, like now she has it.
But within hours, to Tiffany, it was no longer looking like it was only the flu.
She just started stiffening, like her eyes. She looked out and it would go blank.
They called 911. Inside the ambulance, Tiffany was frantic.
I don't know if I was being a little over-invasive. That's my baby. And I'm telling her to move the face mask down a little bit.
At the hospital, Empress did test positive for the flu. But Tiffany was struggling to understand why her daughter was getting so sick so fast.
I think they got upset that I kept on asking questions, so they kicked me out the room.
Her panic may have been perceived as a problem. Medical records noted an EMT told doctors that Tiffany had been extremely nasty in the ambulance and that she interfered with her daughter's care. Empress was given a head scan. It showed no signs of trauma, no bleeding, nothing to suggest neglect or abuse. But it did show possible brain swelling. Empress was unresponsive. She was transferred to a nearby hospital that had a pediatric intensive care unit. Doctors explained prolonged seizures had starved her brain of oxygen. Days passed. Empress remained on life support.
I was in the bed with her.
The whole time?
Yes. I just prayed. I prayed a lot. I just wanted her to wake up.
She didn't.
A doctor had came in and they were like, she suffered irreversible brain damage.
By then, doctors say scans showed definite brain swelling and bleeding. An ophthalmologist also reported blood behind her eyes. 3 findings many doctors believe is evidence of shaken baby syndrome, also known as abusive head trauma.
This is when they gave us their conclusion that they had reached, that the baby had been shaken.
Not only shaken, but shaken and then thrown, they said.
In an instant, their grief was compounded by suspicion.
I know nothing happened to my baby. I know nobody did anything to my baby.
How'd that make you feel?
Man, helpless, powerless. Not only to be in a room where your daughter is fighting for her life, but being in a position where you now have to fight for yours as well.
Suspicion turned into separation when a social worker walked in, holding a cell phone.
And it was the judge telling me, do I consent to my kids being taken away from me?
And what do you say to him?
I said, no, absolutely not. I was scared to death. Those are my kids.
With that call, the state had taken control. All 4 of Tiffany's children were taken from her and placed with her mother. No lawyers, no hearing, no choice.
My baby is here dying in the hospital, and now you want to take my other children away from me. I couldn't believe it.
Empress never recovered. 2 days after Christmas, life support was turned off, her mother holding her tiny hand. The beeping of the monitors is a sound her parents say they will never forget.
You could hear a heartbeat, and we had to sit there and listen to every beat until there were no more.
Tiffany and John went home, devastated and alone. They were never arrested, never charged with a crime. Instead, they'd been pulled into a parallel justice system, one that operates in sealed courtrooms without juries.
In criminal court, you are innocent until proven guilty. In family court, you are essentially guilty until you're proven innocent.
Jessica Horan Block is a lawyer with the Bronx Defenders. She represents parents in family court who have been separated from their children, often after a medical allegation such as shaken baby syndrome.
In many circumstances, families are separated and children are removed based on poorly investigated findings.
The danger many children face is undeniable. Every year, more than 500,000 are the victims of abuse or neglect. About 2,000 died in 2023. CPS workers see that trauma up close. Their job is to protect children, and every day they make grueling, high-stakes decisions under enormous pressure.
And then you hear the horror stories of where someone is kept with their abusive parents and they die.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that is in the back of everyone's minds in the system that are making those decisions. But that can't dictate how you deal with every family. Each family deserves to have a careful analysis.
She says that's especially true with shaken baby syndrome cases, because science has proven the same symptoms many doctors see as abuse can have other possible causes. Jessica says while the science has advanced, the system has not, and that all too often, suspicion of abuse comes first, even though a medical conclusion might be wrong.
What is the general profile of people that you see most affected by these charges of abuse?
Data shows in New York City that, and frankly nationally at hospitals, that Black and brown individuals are more likely to be investigated.
John says at the hospital, he was mindful about how he might have been perceived.
It's America, right? So I had to maintain my emotion because, I knew the picture that they were trying to paint of me. I couldn't hand them the brush.
These are Tiffany's 4 children, Majesty, Story, Noel, and Lenny.
Empress, to me, she was like a little angel. Like, when everything happened, it just disappeared in like a snap of a finger.
I didn't talk to anybody at that point. I was just there, like in the house all the time.
Lenny had been the first in their family to catch the flu.
Guilt just floods me. Not only am I dealing with the grief of my sister, but also the guilt of feeling responsible for my sister's death.
He says he tried to tell CPS workers that he had loving parents and a safe home, but they wouldn't listen.
We're trying to tell them the truth, and it's like we're being ignored.
Story was just 5 when she lost her little sister.
Do you remember that?
So, when my grandma told me, I, started crying.
That must have been so hard. It's okay. I'm sorry.
8 months passed. Tiffany and John finally got Empress's completed autopsy report. It found she died of natural causes, the flu and a bacterial infection leading to severe seizures and a lack of oxygen to her brain. Still, CPS kept the children from going home.
It takes nearly 2 more months for the case to be dismissed against these parents.
Mara Flater is the family's attorney.
How egregious is that to you?
As a human, it is shocking knowing that you got it wrong and not having the human decency to apologize for your error.
Especially when authorities knew the truth.
The gold standard of an autopsy had come back and conclusively shown that this infant died of a tragic illness. There were no signs of abuse. And the child welfare system failed these children.
Tiffany and John are now suing the hospital, the employees involved, and Nassau County, which runs Child Protective Services. None provided comment, although the county filed paperwork to dismiss the suit, and so did the hospital, arguing in part It would be completely unheard of for a doctor to disregard the most alarming clinical findings indicating abuse merely because there could potentially be other explanation. Nearly 10 months after being taken from their home, the family was together again.
How did it feel to have all 4 kids home again?
It was great. You know, I had a lot to undo and fix. They're all affected. They all are.
It took a million years to get there, but at the end of the day, it's like no justice was served.
The stress of the situation fractured Tiffany and John's relationship.
You're not together anymore?
No.
How much of a role do you think Empress's death played in that?
I think it was definitely a domino effect.
The children are home now, but Lenny wants the family court system to know the damage remains.
They need to actually respect the people that they're claiming that they're taking care of. Our voices do matter. It could emotionally impact us so much more than they think.
Dan is joining us now. We're so glad to have you and this important reporting with us here again tonight. You talked about the paperwork filed to dismiss the suit. I know you had a chance to catch up with one of the family attorneys just, I think, recently, right? What's next?
I did. Thank you, Hallie. I spoke with the Johnson's attorney today, and she tells me this is going to be a months-long process. And the first step tried not to have the case dismissed. But whatever happens specifically with this case, the bigger issue it represents is how challenging these decisions are and the consequences of what happens to families when the system gets it wrong. I mean, child abuse, as we all know, is obviously a huge problem in this country. It's striking. It's sad how pervasive it is. In the piece, we laid out how the government tracks those numbers. But what's not tracked are cases like tonight's story, where parents are not arrested or charged, but a family court judge removes children based on a medical misdiagnosis. But these stories rarely make headlines because, by nature, many of the details in family court remain confidential. But, Hallie, we're going to keep reporting on these stories, and thanks for the 3-part series.
You're going to have home on the show for all that. Dan Slepian, we're glad to have you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Hallie.
Of course. That does it for us for this hour. I will see you on Sunday on Nightly News. Thank you, as always, for watching. We've got more coverage picking up right now. We are coming on the air tonight with the first courtroom appearance from the son of a Hollywood legend facing first-degree murder charges in the horrific killings of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. What we're learning from the medical examiner's report just into us late tonight. Then a key vote on health care coming in the House in the next half hour, we think, maybe even the next 20 minutes or so. Why it may still mean insurance prices could spike for 22 million Americans. We'll explain. And we are just now a few hours away from a big speech, a primetime address from the president. What he wants to tell Americans about why he thinks the economy is doing better than people feel it is. Then, on that note, the high heat coming for people trying to keep warm this winter, why heating costs are climbing faster than inflation, and what you can do about it. We've got a look at those new numbers. Then the literal mayhem, that is the actual charge, mayhem at Walmart's in Mississippi. What we're learning about an investigation into razor blades apparently stuffed into some food in the bakeries. That's coming up a little bit later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and we are coming on the air tonight with breaking news. The medical examiner in Los Angeles revealing that Rob Reiner, the famous Hollywood director, and his wife, Michelle, died of what they are calling multiple sharp force injuries. That's the medical terminology here. It comes as their son, Nick Reiner, stayed mostly silent during his first court appearance today. You're looking at some of these new court sketches into us late today. That's Nick Reiner in the blue vest, which means he's under high observation. He's facing first-degree murder charges, accused of killing his parents. The only words he said in court were, "Yes, Your Honor." He's going to face arraignment early in the new year. The LADA is pursuing a conviction that would make Nick Reiner eligible for the death penalty. His attorney, speaking with reporters after the appearance, is asking the public not to rush to judgment.
This is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We ask that during this process, you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward, not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves.
It comes as we were seeing some new surveillance video showing Nick Reiner, there he is, spotlit there at a gas station just hours after allegedly stabbing his parents to death. His siblings, his brother, his sister, are also speaking publicly for the first time since their mom and dad were killed. calling the loss horrific and devastating, adding that they're feeling unimaginable pain. We have team coverage tonight. Danny Savalos is standing by, but I want to start with Gotti Schwartz in Los Angeles. And Gotti, we've seen some other new surveillance video of Nick Reiner in the moments before his arrest, all as this medical examiner's report is coming out. Bring us up to speed on the developments in the last few hours here.
Yeah, that is crucial to the timeline, Hallie. But the big unanswered questions right now are still motive and the murder weapon. We know from this medical examiner's report you just mentioned that was filed that the cause of death is multiple sharp force injuries, meaning that they were stabbed to death. But the DA, he has been ambiguous over whether they have recovered a knife so far. So we don't have a picture of that or the motive, even though online and elsewhere there is rampant speculation surrounding the suspect Nick's history, well-noted history with heavy drug use, his mental health struggles. But we can see from surveillance video of the moments before his arrest from a gas station that he seemed to be walking around normally. This was hours after those murders took place. Seemed to buy a Gatorade. Then he walks across the street where he's soon after arrested near USC in Exposition Park. But today we did not hear a guilty or a not guilty plea from him when he made that very, very brief appearance in court. All of that is now being pushed to the next court date on January 7th. Hallie?
We're also hearing, as we mentioned, from the other kids of Rob and Michelle Reiner, who are making this call for compassion and for humanity in this incredibly high-profile case. I mean, you've seen cameras basically parked outside every corner of all of this for days now because of the intense public interest here. And their kids are basically saying, hey, don't forget, there are real people whose lives have been turned into nightmares because of this.
Yeah, they're asking for compassion, and this is going to be such a long process for them. And yet, in this note, the thing that is missing is any mention of their brother. This was an extremely close family. You see it now from all the social media posts that are being shared, showing Rob, his daughter, his wife, all of them on family vacation at movie premieres, just having fun in their house. This family spent a lot of time together, and they are absolutely devastated. And that family extends out across Hollywood to those that worked very closely with Rob Reiner throughout their careers. Meg Ryan, for example, just a little while ago, she posted on social media, how we will miss that man. Thank you, Rob and Michelle, for the way that you believed in true love, in fairy tales, in laughter. Thank you for your faith in the best of people and for your profound love of our country. And then she said something that I think is resonating with so many people. She says, I have to believe that their story will not end in this impossible tragedy, that some good may come, some awareness raised. I don't know, but my guess is that they would want that to be hopeful and humane, something that brings us to a greater understanding of one another and to some peace. And yet the thing that continues to ring so loudly in many of our heads is a description of this being this almost like Greek tragedy that we are seeing unfold in front of our very eyes, with a lot of nuance, with a lot of details that we still don't know, and the family asking that as we learn more details, we have compassion. Hallie?
Gotti Schwartz, live for us in Los Angeles. Gotti, thank you very much. Let me bring in Danny Savalos now, our legal analyst. So one of the things that we've seen speculatively from outside observers, legal experts, et cetera, we saw, of course, Nick Reiner's attorney, his high-profile attorney, Alan Jackson, speaking outside court, is that perhaps his defense will try to make an insanity case here, not guilty by reason of insanity. How complicated is something like that? Is that your assessment of where this may go? Help us understand that piece of it.
Yes, this is one of those cases where just based on the reports and the evidence that we may have now, and there's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a crime scene with a cornucopia of evidence that the government's going to use. So if it's that overwhelming, you may have to consider on the defense using the insanity defense. But be warned, it requires essentially that you admit to all other elements of the crime. You think about it. You can't plead, oh, it wasn't me, it was someone else. But if it was, I was insane. So it's a very risky defense and very sparingly used.
What about the idea that this arraignment now for Nick Reiner has been moved until after the new year, early January? Should we read anything into that? Is that normal?
No, it was the defense's request, and it was a good strategy. They need a little more time to prepare, although the arraignment is not going to be, it's not going to contain any surprises. It's unlikely that the defendant's going to end up with bail, and in all likelihood, all the arraignment will do is the same thing it does in all their cases, is start the case off, set the clock, and the case will move inexorably towards either a trial or a plea. And just statistically speaking, most of these cases end in plea agreements.
Danny Savelos, watching all of that for us, I know, as you have since this story broke. Danny, thank you. Want to bring you back here to Washington now, give you a live look at the House floor. In the next couple of minutes, we think, and actually, let me get a gut check from our team on this, because it looks like they're voting now. This might be one of the procedural votes, but they're going to vote on this new Republican health care plan. We actually think that vote is going to come in about 20 minutes. Now, here's the thing. This is a new health care plan, and you're thinking, okay, is this about those subsidies, those premiums that are set to spike for millions when those Obamacare, a.k.a. Affordable Care Act subsidies expire at the end of the year? No. I mean, the idea is this bill is probably going to pass. It's not going to do anything for this piece of it. It's not going to extend those subsidies, which run out at the end of the month. That means you could see a ton of people pay a lot more. And you have some Republican moderates not happy about it. You got this group of 4 Republicans. Here they are. They're kind of more centrist there, but they're defecting from the rest of the GOP. They're bucking their own party to join with Democrats to try this kind of Hail Mary push to get something done. Watch.
Oh, look, we were really left with no choice.
We've literally moved heaven and earth. You know, we are rank and file members. We did everything in our power to try to protect these people that need help.
So you hear from those Republicans there that are like, hey, we need to do something about these premiums that are going to go up after the new year. Thing is, this is going to have a steep hill to climb in Congress. That's the politics. The real world impact. One estimate shows a family of 4 making $45,000 a year are going to see their premiums go up to about $1,600 a year. Families making more than that, $75,000 to $110,000, could see their premiums go up something like $3,600. I mean, this is a substantial amount of money. There's also some estimates suggesting that 4 million people may drop coverage altogether. Mel Zanona is live for us on Capitol Hill. We just showed, I think we showed the vote board. I don't think it's this vote, right? The healthcare vote. That is going to happen in a couple of minutes here. Help us understand sort of all the pieces of this, the Republican defections, this vote that's going to go down. It feels like the bottom line is they're not going to get it done, any sort of extension done before the new year, which means premiums will go up.
That's exactly right. There is virtually no chance that Congress is actually going to pass an Affordable Care Act extension before the new year. That being said, though, there was some significant movement today when you had 4 Republicans join with this Democratic-led effort to essentially go over GOP leadership's head and force a floor vote on a 3-year clean extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. So now Speaker Mike Johnson has 7 legislative days to actually schedule a floor vote on that 3-year extension. Likely he's going to do that in the new year. So to your point, these premiums are going to skyrocket. The subsidies are going to expire. Congress is going to go over the health care cliff before they even get close to addressing this. And then even if that bill passes the House, which it likely will, it still needs to pass in the Senate and be signed into law by President Trump, who's been very skeptical about these Obamacare subsidies. And the Senate, we should note, already rejected a similar proposal earlier this month that was very similar to the 3-year extension. So that is still very much an open question what the Senate decides to do with this. But that being said, Hallie, just the fact the Senate is actually going to act on these subsidies is significant, and it could put some renewed pressure on the Senate to act. But what they're going to need to do is come together and find a compromise, something that they just have not been able to do yet because Republicans have been all over the map on the issue of health care.
What would a compromise look like, right? Because you look at the Affordable Care Act, a.k.a. Obamacare, same thing, right? And, you know, 3/4 of the people, I think Kaiser had a study, 3/4 of the people who are using those insurance marketplaces are in states that backed Donald Trump in the most recent election, that backed the president in the most recent election. And I say that to say the point that some Republicans have made is like these are people who voted for the president, who use these healthcare marketplaces. You've got the president who wants to put money right in sort of directly into Americans' pockets to pay for healthcare. Democrats say that's problematic. You've got Republicans who are like, well, let small businesses band together and do insurance. The Democrats have concerns there. The Democrats want to extend the subsidies. Republicans say that's not the move here. What is a compromise? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, that's something that Republicans and Democrats alike have been really struggling with. I think in an ideal world, what some of these supporters view as a compromise would potentially be an extension of the subsidies for several years or some length of time, in addition to some of the Republican reforms that they want to see to healthcare, something like converting those subsidies into health savings accounts. But all of that is much easier said than done. There are so many issues that have tripped up this debate, including the
topic of of abortion when it comes to health care, because conservatives are insistent that any extension of the Obamacare subsidies needs to also include strict language to prevent insurers from covering abortion. And that has just been something that's been a non-starter for Democrats. So it's a really complicated issue. But like I said, the hope is that once constituents start feeling the pressures and seeing these skyrocketing costs and they're actually paying out of their pocket, they have less money because of it, combined with the fact that the House is finally going to act on something, perhaps that motivates the Senate to come together. Perhaps Trump gets motivated to actually get involved and try to, position himself as a deal maker. None of that has happened yet, though. So that's why there's still a long ways to go in this debate.
Mel Zanona, thank you very much. Keeping an eye on all of that. We expect that vote to go down in just the next couple of minutes. Mel, thank you very much. Just down Pennsylvania Avenue at the White House, the president, we expect in just a few hours to give this prime time address to the nation. This is like a big thing. A lot of eyeballs, a lot of audience on this. He's not going to, we understand, get into like super specific policies, like drop anything new necessarily, but it's going to be kind of more broad strokes, according to a senior administration official. And the White House, it's like an interesting moment here because the president's been facing heat on the economy, on this affordability question that has dogged his administration now for months. And there's kind of a dovetail to what you're seeing now. These plaques that have now been installed on the building, on the White House, talking about, you're looking at, for example, an auto pen under the President Biden piece. You got President Obama, former President Obama, who had a plaque, former President Biden, et cetera. These like sort of controversial comments that apparently President Trump himself wrote. Reagan, Nixon, et cetera. And the reason we bring this up is because some Democrats have suggested, as this became public, like, why is the president spending time on these plaques and kind of like trolling his predecessors when there's people who are stressing out and freaking out about their budgets? With that as the backdrop there, as we weave that all together, let me bring in our senior White House correspondent, Gabe Gutierrez, who is outside the White House. And it seems like this is an interestingly timed moment for President Trump, right before the holidays, as his first year of his second term comes to a close, as we're seeing his approval rating slip and more Americans suggest they're not happy with how he's handling the economy. It feels like this is going to be a real potential defense of what the president has done over the course of the last 11 months.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. You see those numbers right there. Many Americans, according to polls, showing some skepticism about how President Trump is handling the economy. A new poll out actually today from PBS, NPR, and Marist shows that just 36% of Americans approve of his handling for the economy. So that is what we do expect the president to focus on tonight, Hallie. Although, as you know, as well as anyone, he often does not stick to the script. So this will be a huge audience, millions of people watching, a primetime address from the White House behind me. The president was asked about what his message tonight was going to be just a short time ago on the tarmac as he left the dignified transfer ceremony. Let's listen.
Well, I think the message this evening is we inherited a mess, and we've done a great job, and we continue to, and our country is going to be stronger than ever before very soon.
So, yes, this is what we do expect to hear. The president is touting what his administration believes are his economic successes, perhaps teasing some things he'll do to try and lower cost over the year ahead. But when it comes to the issue of affordability, Hallie, at least using that word, while some Republicans say the president should be talking more about that, the president himself has used every opportunity he's had to downplay any concerns about affordability and calling it over and over again a Democratic hoax, despite those polls, Hallie.
A lot of, I think, domestic focus potentially tonight, Gabe. There's also obviously these sort of international pieces that are at play, like the president ordering this full blockade now of all sanctioned oil tankers into and out of Venezuela. This is yet another escalation of tensions in the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's right. And look, the president was also asked about that a little bit ago during when reporters were speaking to him on the tarmac. Let's listen to what he had to say about Venezuela.
It's the blockade. Not going to let anybody going through that shouldn't be going through. You remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil, getting land, oil rights, whatever we had.
So yes, Hallie, the major question right now is how Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela's leader, responds to all this. Susie Wiles, in that Vanity Fair piece that was published yesterday, basically, in a way, contradicted what the administration has said about the main goal in the targeting of alleged drug boats near Venezuela as being, targeting narco-terrorists. Well, Susie Wiles, in that series of interviews, did say that part of it was to make Maduro cry uncle. And so that is calling a lot of attention to what the president's end game when it comes to Venezuela is, whether the administration plans to force Maduro from power in the near future. Unclear whether that will happen, but certainly the president upping the ante by ordering that blockade of those sanctioned oil tankers into and out of Venezuela. Critics of his administration say that he could be violating international law here. It is complicated, but certainly the president not backing down after that huge military buildup already in the Caribbean, Hallie.
Gabe Gutierrez juggling all of it for us tonight outside the White House. Gabe will be joining us for our special coverage tonight of the president's address to the nation right here on NBC News Now and on NBC News with special coverage leading up to and following the remarks. I'll be joined by my colleagues Tom Yamas and Kristen Welker. Again, that's 9 o'clock Eastern tonight. We are keeping a close eye on that House floor. We're expecting that health care vote any minute. We think it's going to start maybe the next 2, 3, 5 minutes here. We're going to bring you that the second that it happens. But we've also got some breaking news out of Washington right now, as we are just learning that in this 200-plus page filing that has just been put in place, the United States is taking responsibility for that deadly midair crash over the Potomac between a Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines commercial plane that happened earlier this year. You remember it, you're seeing the video here, that horrific collision that ended in 67 people being killed. I want to get right to Tom Costello. And Tom, I know this filing is just out in the last couple of minutes here. Can you help us understand what it means, what this admission it does here?
Yeah, it's a very long court filing, 200-plus pages, as you mentioned, and we're just getting through to read it. But the headlines here are really no surprise in that we already know that the FAA and the NTSB have found the controllers may not have been completely doing their jobs that night, and we know that the Army Black Hawk helicopter pilots were flying at the wrong altitude. So these are some of the quotes here. The United States admits that it owed a duty of care to the plaintiffs, in other words, the passengers, 67 of whom in total died, which it breached, thereby approximately causing the tragic accident on January 29th. The United States admits, again, that its actions, the actions caused this accident. They go on to say the United States also is going to admit that the airspace at DCA is busy at times. The risk of a midair cannot be reduced to zero. The United States admits that the helicopter crew and the pilots failed to maintain vigilance so as to see and avoid each other. Now, the pilots and also the American Eagle pilots, they are claiming. Let me make that clear. The United States government here says it admits the Army helicopter pilots and the American Eagle pilots, the passenger plane, failed to maintain vigilance as to see each other and avoid each other. I got to say, I don't think that you would hear that same observation from the NTSB or certainly from the families of those who died. And then they go on to say the defendants utterly failed in their responsibility to the traveling public, including the passengers on board that American Eagle plane. Listen, 67 people, as we said, died in both the chopper and the plane, and the government is now being sued by those families, and the government is admitting that, in fact, the controllers as well as the Army chopper pilots failed to keep them safe. As I said, this is pretty much in line with what the NTSB investigation, at least in the preliminary findings, has already laid out. Separately, the FAA has already said much of this, but now you've got the government being sued, acknowledging it does, in fact, bear responsibility.
Tom Costello, we've been seeing some of those images, of course, from the crash, from the aftermath, just so fresh and so horrific every time. Tom Costello, thank you for bringing us that breaking news. I know you and the team are continuing to look through all that. We've got some other developing news coming into us in just the last hour or so, with one of the top officials at the FBI saying he's going to leave at the beginning of next year. You're looking at him, the Deputy Director, Dan Bongino, in a tweet and a post online thanking the president, thanking his bosses for the opportunity to serve here. Bongino had a share of controversies, including a dispute with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the Epstein files. Now, remember, the DOJ is supposed to release the documents that it has on the Epstein case by Friday. That's the deadline. And late today, the convicted associate of Jeffrey Epstein asked a federal court, talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, to toss out her 2021 sex trafficking conviction. Maxwell says, I'm quoting from her filing here, that substantial evidence has emerged showing she didn't get a fair trial. Remember, she was given a 20-year prison sentence for sex trafficking minors. Ryan Riley is joining us now. And Ryan, we'll get to Maxwell in a second. But let's talk about this departure at the FBI. It's coming, I would say, fairly soon, right? I mean, less than a year since Dan Bongino got this job, and now he's departing. Do we know why? Do we know what prompted this? What else?
About 27 Scaramucci's compared to the last term, as we're looking at here. But basically, it's kind of expected in some ways because of all of the tension that we saw within the FBI. And, I think the real big signal for this was when they brought in a co-deputy director, although somehow Dan Bongino did not get downgraded to co-deputy director as well. He was just the deputy, but then there's a co-deputy director, and that sort of meant someone else was splitting the job. And what that also sets them up for under the law is that person, to Andrew Bailey, to be able to step in potentially for Kash Patel if that were to ever come down the line without going through a Senate confirmation process. So now I think that's where the tension is going to be. But Dan Bongino went through a lot of controversies and sort of that previous life as this podcaster, where he's making very incendiary remarks, and then moving into the FBI, I think, was a significant life change, not only financially but family-wise for him, and that seems to be what he wants to go back to, is to doing the podcast.
Of course, we know that this unsigned memo that came out over the summer from the FBI, from the DOJ, when it comes to the Epstein case, suggested there's basically nothing else. We're not going to be releasing any more information. Flash forward, 5 months. Now here we are. This deadline is coming up on Friday for them to release these documents here. You've got Ghislaine Maxwell, as we explained today, asking a court to vacate her conviction. She's talking about, quote unquote, evidence that has emerged. What is she talking about? Help us understand that. This feels kind of like a last ditch long shot, but you tell us.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then the fact that she's doing it by herself, pro se, is significant there as well.
Pro se means on her own?
Correct.
Okay.
And so not, so not working with a lawyer, basically. She's in this new facility. Perhaps she has access to a law library there that she could be working on. I do think it's sort of a last ditch effort that they're going with here, potentially.
Okay. And obviously all of it coming ahead of this deadline on Friday?
Yeah, and I mean, that's something they really have to prepare for, to get all of those records out. Deadline is quickly promoting very quickly, so coming up very soon. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to get all of that information out there.
Ryan Riley, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Also tonight, a new warning about how much it's going to cost you to keep your house warm this winter, with prices today forecast to go up by about 10%. Don't shoot the messenger here, gang. These are the new numbers from the National Energy Assistance Directors Association. Electricity, big hit, 10% higher. The average heating cost in last year, about $1,000. This year, something like $1,200, it's predicted. This is like twice the rate of inflation. It's not quite as bad if you heat your house with gas, but you're still going to take a hit. Let's bring in Brian Chung to break it down now. We covered this during the elections back in November. Previously, the energy costs for people are like a real thing. I mean, I hear about it when I'm out in the field. I know you hear about it too. Like, this is not the direction people want to be moving in.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is part of the affordability story. Certainly, we talk so much about rising grocery prices, but the next thing you often hear from people is the cost of just heating your home and cooling it during the summer. But of course, right now, in the throes of winter, it is indeed very cold, but it's also getting more expensive to heat your home, despite all of this. So what's contributing to this? Well, there are a number of factors. First off, you do have the rising cost of electricity and also natural gas. So it seems like regardless of how you heat your home, it's going to get more expensive simply because of that. But then you also layer on top of that a lot of these infrastructure investments that a lot of these utility companies have been putting into place. In some cases, they pass those costs on to consumers. But you also have the impact of these massive AI data centers going across the country, which it's up for debate in terms of how much they've led to an increase in prices. But that is certainly a factor as well. So as people are thinking about these costs, which over the course of a season, as you just outlined in those numbers, could be something like $200 more expensive than it was just last year, some things you could do to make sure that your home is as efficient efficient as possible. These are tips that experts give us. Change your furnace filter to make sure that you maximize your warm airflow. Make sure that your attics, crawl spaces, pipes, they're insulated. That might require some investment, but it might pay off. Seal those windows. If you have south-facing windows, keep the curtains open so that it gets that free sunshine and heat into your apartment, condo, or house. And lastly, try to use space heaters, safe ones that have these tip-over cutoff switches. These are all ways to get around another potential option here, which is lowering your thermostat. Actually, in fact, the Department of Energy says 68 is what you should keep your house to in the winter, but I know people don't want to compromise on their temperature on their thermostat, so try to use those other tips, Hallie.
Brian Chung, thank you very much. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, new images are coming into us now, just released in the Brown University shooting. Police say that this person you're looking at here was in proximity, quote unquote, to the other person of interest they've identified. They want to talk to whoever this is. They're not accused of any wrongdoing. Remember, 2 students were killed in the shooting. 6 of the people hurt are still in the hospital as the manhunt for the attacker now enters or gets close to its 6th day. Number 2, 1 person is hurt after this small plane crashed near an apartment building in New Hampshire. Look at that. You can see the aircraft there lying in the snow. The FAA says it happened not long after takeoff. No word yet on what caused it. Number 3, take a look at this. A camel kicking a woman during a Christmas show at a Texas church. She had to get to the hospital, but fortunately, she's doing okay now. Very scary stuff. The church says it has stopped walking animals near the audience for the remainders of their holiday shows. Number 4, in just the last hour, the Senate confirming a billionaire tech entrepreneur to lead NASA. Remember, Jared Isaacman, was first picked for the role last year, but then President Trump withdrew his nomination after a review of prior associations, as he called it. The president now says Isaacman is ideally suited to lead NASA into a new era. Number 5, take a look. What you're looking at here, a river in Alaska. Why is it orangey red? It's not a chemical spill. Experts describe it as a rusting river, a naturally occurring phenomenon. They say the orange color is from iron, which happens naturally in the frozen ground that spills into the water when the temperatures go back up. Pretty interesting stuff there. I want to take you back to the House floor, where in just the last 30 seconds, I believe the vote has been gavelled. That health care bill has been passed that has made some changes to the affordable care, to the way that people get health care and manage health care in this country. But let's go to Mel Zanona here, who's going to break it down for us. First of all, Mel, check me if I'm wrong. It has been gavelled, right? Just want to confirm.
It has officially passed. It was a party line vote. Yes.
Party line vote. Tell us what it does here, right? Because what it doesn't do, and I think that's almost more important, it doesn't do anything to address these expiring Affordable Care Act premiums that are going away at the end of the year that are going to spike insurance costs for potentially 22 million people.
That's exactly right. This is an extremely narrow conservative health care proposal. Many of the ideas that were voted on have actually been kicked around in GOP circles for many years. So some of these ideas are hardly new. It does not include an extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. It also doesn't even include money for health savings accounts. That was something that had been really pushed by Senate Republicans and President Donald Trump. So what this bill does have, it has some transparency requirements for pharmacy benefit managers when dealing with employers. It also allows multiple employers to sort of join forces and buy coverage together at a group rate or a preferential rate. But this is not the Republican answer to replacing Obamacare. That is something Republicans have really struggled with. Johnson clearly felt some pressure to put some type of points on the board to show that Republicans are taking steps to address health care before they leave for the holidays. But despite all of that, there was intense Republican frustration, particularly from the moderates in the conference, who don't feel like their own party is doing enough to address health care. And in fact, there were so many frustrated Republicans that enough of them joined forces with a Democratic petition to essentially force a floor vote on a clean 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act. So that is going to get a vote within 7 legislative days. But if you're doing the math here, the House is leaving on Friday for the holidays, which means this will not get a vote until the new year, after those subsidies have already expired. And even then, even when it passes the House in the new year, it still needs to pass the Senate, which has already rejected a very similar proposal. So really what it comes down to is whether the Senate can strike a bipartisan compromise deal. But the hope, at least among supporters, is that this new House movement that is expected in the new year could really put some pressure on senators to finally act.
Mel Zanona live for us on Capitol Hill with that breaking news here in Washington. Mel, thank you. We'll be talking again, I know, throughout this week and, of course, in January, too. Also got to get to some new developments tonight about this investigation into what sounds like an urban legend, razor blades stuffed into some things at Walmarts in Mississippi. Police have a suspect in custody now. You see her here walking into the store. She's accused of putting razor blades into bread at Walmart bakeries. Look at this. Customers found them in like loaves of bread, in muffins over the past couple weeks. Walmart says they've taken out and inspected all the products that could have been affected, and the customers who bought something they're worried about can return it and get their money back. Now the suspect is charged with attempted mayhem. That's literally the charge, mayhem, with her bond set at $100,000. Jesse Kirsch is covering this one for us. This is like one of those horrible things you feel like you get warned about around Halloween, like, oh, you know, you watch out for the razor blades in the food. It's happened to multiple people in this particular city at these two different Walmarts, right? Police do say we're good to go. It's under control now.
They're asking people to still be vigilant, Hallie. Here's the reality. This was going on for days, more than a week, according to police, before they were notified, before Walmart fully uncovered what was going on, according to investigators. And so that means there may potentially be other products that were purchased that have not been returned yet or been discovered to have had something dangerous. But police have not reported any serious injuries at that point, which is, of course, great news, because the potential for industry, right, you can imagine could be catastrophic from ingesting a razor blade. Also, police say at least one fish hook was discovered as well. But when I asked police if they think this is all wrapped up, here's what the police told me.
I think it's best to be safe than sorry. I think it's best to be vigilant. You know, we just have no way of knowing how many loaves of bread or items in the bakery were tampered with to begin with, and how many may have been sold, and over the course of what amount of time.
So again, Hallie, they're asking people to still be vigilant tonight.
Jesse Kirsch live for us with all those details. Jesse, thank you. Still ahead for us tonight, the stunning move from the Oscars, why Hollywood's biggest awards show is abandoning broadcast TV. Plus, the quick thinking at an Arizona high school that ended up saving a teenager's life. So one of the biggest TV moments of the year is not going to be on TV. At least not your traditional linear TV, as we're learning today that the Oscars are shifting to streaming. They're going to be on YouTube starting in 2029. That is a big deal. That is historic. ABC has been broadcasting the Oscars since the 70s, although NBC was the OG. We did the first Oscars broadcast back in 1953. But honestly, for all those decades, it's been on broadcast TV, at least till now, or a couple years from now. So why is the Academy doing it? They say that this move is going to allow us to expand access, in their words, to the work of the Academy to the largest worldwide audience possible. Chloe Malas is following this one for us. So, Chloe, that quote is super interesting. Let me pull up the graphic that you know I'm obsessed with about the most watched TV broadcasts last year. Tons of football, tons of live sports. But look at number 74, the 74th most watched live broadcast. That was the Oscars. It seems like the Academy is making a bet, Chloe, that streaming, YouTube, et cetera, is going to help them beat those numbers.
I mean, who knows if they're actually going to move up from the 74 spot, Hallie, and I agree. That is a really great graphic. A lot of football, right, especially in my house. But they are really looking towards the people that are the cord cutters, those that are not leaning into linear television anymore. I mean, look, I know amongst my mom friends, when I say I'm covering the Oscars, they're like, oh, that's tonight? I mean, look, still millions of people watch, but it's not that appointment television like back in the day when you saw Billy Crystal hosting. You know, you're just not seeing it anymore, and you're seeing so many people lean in to YouTube TV. I mean, where are people watching their movie trailers? You know, the latest that's on television on YouTube. And I think that, you know, this just reflects the change in which broadcast television is just not what it once was. I mean, even look to Netflix right now, where they are looking to buy Warner Brothers Studios if that deal goes through, right? Who would have ever thought that Netflix, they would be this streaming giant that they are today and actually buying the storied Hollywood studio? So I think you got to look at new audiences. Where are people watching content right now? And it really is YouTube and YouTube TV. So we'll just have to see what happens. And does that mean that my mom now is going to have to figure out how to get on YouTube and YouTube
She should already
TV?
be there, girl. We're going to get your mom on it.
She's
okay,
not, but she loves the Oscars, and I know she's going to have to find a way to watch for sure.
She's got a few years, 2029. We'll see her then. We'll see you then. Consider yourself booked and busy. Chloe Malas, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of other stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Northeast Bureau, a huge fire partially collapsed this Jewish bakery in Brooklyn early this morning. 3 people were hurt. A firefighter ended up trapped. Fortunately, that firefighter was okay. Everyone else is expected to recover. There's no reason, according to officials, to think it was arson at this point. They consider the cause to be under investigation. Out of our Western Bureau, real act of heroism at a high school in Phoenix. Surveillance cameras catching the moment a student starts choking and then collapses. And then you see the school security guard jump into action, basically picks this student up, starts performing the Heimlich, saving her life. He wasn't even supposed to be working that day. Just incredible. A lot of kudos to him. And out of our Southern Bureau, a pretty special moment at a college graduation in Florida. A student getting his day in the sun decades after first setting foot on campus. That roaring applause was for Roberto Fernandez, age 85, who enrolled at FIU back in 1972 but wasn't able to finish his degree. He found out he needed just one more class to graduate a few years back, so he hit the books. He calls graduating from college his life goal, and it is a goal that he has now achieved. Very cool. Coming up on the show, much more to get to, including a rare behind-the-scenes look at First Lady Melania Trump, why her new documentary is already causing some consternation even before it's released. That's next. First Lady Melania Trump is offering this pretty interesting and pretty rare look behind the curtain in an upcoming documentary, her documentary, with the first trailer dropping today. Look at this.
Here we go again.
You can come in. Good morning. Our proudest legacy will be that of peacemaker.
Peacemaker under the fire.
First Lady Melania Trump there breaking the fourth wall, showing some of this behind-the-scenes action with this doc. It's aptly titled Melania, set to come out at the end of next month, taking people through the 20 days leading up to the inauguration, her journey back to the White House, etc. It's a collaboration with Amazon MGM Studios, and it'll roll out on Prime Video after being in theaters. There's an interesting directorial choice as well, which our chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander will get into. So interesting here, Peter, because it's not often we see something like this. The First Lady, who is currently in office, right, a sitting First Lady, pulling back the curtain like this, clearly trying to show that she is involved in some of these critical moments around her husband, around the presidency. And then you've got this very intentional, it seems, and somewhat controversial choice of director.
Well, let's start with the latter half of that question, which is specifically Brett Ratner, the director. As you know, Melania is going to mark his first major project.
Peter. I'm sorry. I know.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
No doubt. Since 2017, when, of course, he was accused of sexual misconduct by numerous women, Ratner has denied the allegations here because of Ratner's involvement in this. President Trump reportedly pushed the Ellison family for Rush Hour 4, that long-shelved sequel that was to star Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. The Ellisons apparently listened. Paramount worked out a deal to make that movie. But specific to this, the First Lady who signed this multi-million-dollar deal with Amazon is also an executive producer of the project, which in effect makes it clear that this is with her full participation. She appears to have editorial control here. She's largely been under the radar during her husband's second term. She has indicated that a lot of her focus for the first 10 months of this term has been on this documentary, though she has been more visible, we should note, in recent weeks ahead of its release. The early clips, though, to your point, Hallie, they really frame her, not surprisingly, in a flattering light. They present her as this independent thinker, a trusted advisor to her husband, at one point even offering him feedback, tweaking a script as he rehearses a speech. Here's part of the trailer just released.
Hi, Mr. President. Congratulations.
Did you watch it?
I did not. Yeah, I will see it on the news.
There you go. The doc intended to pull back the curtain on her experiences, visiting with the resident staff at Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower as well, and having lunch with friends. We'll see it all soon. Hallie?
What is your sense, Peter, just having covered this administration for 2 terms now, what is her end game here? Do we have any sense of that, or at least, you know, could we posit anything on that? Because it does feel like it is, you know, very much a public relations effort on her part.
I would propose that in a White House where President Trump is sort of the communicator-in-chief, this is her chance to write her own story, and she's going to do it in a very high-profile, heavily produced way. So we'll see soon.
Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander, aptly game on that 19-part question. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you. We'll see you later on tonight. Thanks. Coming up, we've got much more to get to here on the show, including an NBC News exclusive. This multi-part investigation we've been bringing you here on the show. Coming up, how allegations of abuse tore one family apart, even after the parents were cleared of any wrongdoing. Dan Slepian will join us next. To tonight's Original Now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight it's our continuing coverage of so-called shaken baby syndrome, the growing debate over the diagnosis. And tonight, in one family's case, how an early assumption from medical professionals can tear people apart. We're focusing on this couple in New York, never arrested or charged with a crime. But as their child was dying from an illness, a family court removed the mother's other 4 children from their home. It took nearly a year to get those kids back, with the couple having to fight even after the autopsy cleared them of wrongdoing. Here's Dan Slepian.
Baby, that's my baby, yeah.
On November 23rd, 2021, Empress Azani Johnson was born.
Daddy, baby.
Tell me how that feels to hold your new baby.
It's phenomenal, man. You know, you see this little person come out looking like you.
Her parents, John and Tiffany, had met a year earlier. Tiffany, already a mother of 4. They brought Empress home, joining her 4 siblings. They say the house felt full and happy.
You just saw the new energy that she brought into the household.
Shortly after Empress's first birthday, the flu was sweeping through their house.
When she started throwing up, I'm like, oh no, like now she has it.
But within hours, to Tiffany, it was no longer looking like it was only the flu.
She just started stiffening, like her eyes. She looked out and it would go blank.
They called 911. Inside the ambulance, Tiffany was frantic.
I don't know if I was being a little over-invasive. That's my baby. And I'm telling her to move the face mask down a little bit.
At the hospital, Empress did test positive for the flu. But Tiffany was struggling to understand why her daughter was getting so sick so fast.
I think they got upset that I kept on asking questions, so they kicked me out the room.
Her panic may have been perceived as a problem. Medical records noted an EMT told doctors that Tiffany had been extremely nasty in the ambulance and that she interfered with her daughter's care. Empress was given a head scan. It showed no signs of trauma, no bleeding, nothing to suggest neglect or abuse. But it did show possible brain swelling. Empress was unresponsive. She was transferred to a nearby hospital that had a pediatric intensive care unit. Doctors explained prolonged seizures had starved her brain of oxygen. Days passed. Empress remained on life support.
I was in the bed with her.
The whole time?
Yes. I just prayed. I prayed a lot. I just wanted her to wake up.
She didn't.
A doctor had came in and they were like, you know, she suffered irreversible brain damage.
By then, doctors say scans showed definite brain swelling and bleeding. An ophthalmologist also reported blood behind her eyes. 3 findings many doctors believe is evidence of shaken baby syndrome, also known as abusive head trauma.
This is when they gave us their conclusion that they had reached, that the baby had been shaken.
Not only shaken, but shaken and then thrown, they said.
In an instant, their grief was compounded by suspicion.
I know nothing happened to my baby. I know nobody did anything to my baby.
How'd that make you feel?
Man, helpless, powerless. Not only to be in a room where your daughter is fighting for her life, but being in a position where you now have to fight for yours as well.
Suspicion turned into separation when a social worker walked in, holding a cell phone.
And it was the judge telling me, do I consent to my kids being taken away from me?
And what do you say to him?
I said, no, absolutely not. I was scared to death. Those are my kids.
With that call, the state had taken control. All 4 of Tiffany's children were taken from her and placed with her mother. No lawyers, no hearing, no choice.
My baby is here dying in the hospital, and now you want to take my other children away from me. I couldn't believe it.
Empress never recovered. 2 days after Christmas, life support was turned off, her mother holding her tiny hand. The beeping of the monitors is a sound her parents say they will never forget.
You could hear a heartbeat, and we had to sit there and listen to every beat until there were no more.
Tiffany and John went home. devastated and alone. They were never arrested, never charged with a crime. Instead, they'd been pulled into a parallel justice system, one that operates in sealed courtrooms without juries.
In criminal court, you are innocent until proven guilty. In family court, you are essentially guilty until you're proven innocent.
Jessica Horan Block is a lawyer with the Bronx Defenders. She represents parents in family court who have been separated from their children, often after a medical allegation such as shaken baby syndrome.
In many circumstances, families are separated and children are removed based on poorly investigated findings.
The danger many children face is undeniable. Every year, more than 500,000 are the victims of abuse or neglect. About 2,000 died in 2023. CPS workers see that trauma up close. Their job is to protect children, and every day they make grueling, high-stakes decisions under enormous pressure.
And then you hear the horror stories of where someone is kept with their abusive parents and they die.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that is in the back of everyone's minds in the system that are making those decisions, but that can't dictate how you deal with every family. Each family deserves to have a careful analysis.
She says that's especially true with shaken baby syndrome cases, because science has proven the same symptoms many doctors see as abuse can have other possible causes. Jessica says while the science has advanced, the system has not, and that all too often, suspicion of abuse comes first, even though a medical conclusion might be wrong.
What is the general profile of people that you see most affected by these charges of abuse?
Data shows in New York City that, and frankly nationally at hospitals, that Black and brown individuals are more likely to be investigated.
John says at the hospital, he was mindful about how he might have been perceived.
It's America, right? So I had to maintain my emotion because, I knew the picture that they were trying to paint of me. I couldn't hand them the brush.
These are Tiffany's 4 children, Majesty, Story, Noel, and Lenny.
Empress, to me, she was like a little angel. Like, when everything happened, it just disappeared in like a snap of a finger.
I didn't talk to anybody at that point. I was just there, like in the house all the time.
Lenny had been the first in their family to catch the flu.
Guilt just floods me. Not only am I dealing with the grief of my sister, but also the guilt of feeling responsible for my sister's death.
He says he tried to tell CPS workers that he had loving parents and a safe home, but they wouldn't listen.
We're trying to tell them the truth, and it's like we're being ignored.
Story was just 5 when she lost her little sister.
Do you remember that?
So, when my grandma told me, I, started crying.
That must have been so hard. It's okay. I'm sorry.
8 months passed. Tiffany and John finally got Empress's completed autopsy report. It found she died of natural causes, the flu and a bacterial infection leading to severe seizures and a lack of oxygen to her brain. Still, CPS kept the children from going home.
It takes nearly 2 more months for the case to be dismissed against these parents.
Mara Flater is the family's attorney.
How egregious is that to you?
As a human, it is shocking knowing that you got it wrong and not having the human decency to apologize for your error.
Especially when authorities knew the truth.
The gold standard of an autopsy had come back and conclusively shown that this infant died of a tragic illness. There were no signs of abuse. The child welfare system failed these children.
Tiffany and John are now suing the hospital, the employees involved, and Nassau County, which runs Child Protective Services. None provided comment, although the county filed paperwork to dismiss the suit, and so did the hospital, arguing in part. It would be completely unheard of for a doctor to disregard the most alarming clinical findings indicating abuse merely because there could potentially be other explanation. Nearly 10 months after being taken from their home, the family was together again.
How did it feel to have all 4 kids home again?
It was great. I had a lot to undo and fix. They're all affected. They all are.
It took a million years to get there, but at the end of the day, it's like no justice was served.
The stress of the situation fractured Tiffany and John's relationship.
You're not together anymore?
No.
How much of a role do you think Empress's death played in that?
I think it was definitely a domino effect.
The children are home now, but Lenny wants the family court system to know the damage remains.
They need to actually respect the people that they're claiming that they're taking care of. Our voices do matter. It could emotionally impact us so much more than they think.
Dan is joining us now. We're so glad to have you and this important reporting with us here again tonight. You talked about the paperwork filed to dismiss the suit. I know you had a chance to catch up with one of the family attorneys just, I think, recently, right? What's next?
I did. Thank you, Hallie. I spoke with the Johnson's attorney today, and she tells me this is going to be a months-long process. And the first step, tried not to have the case dismissed. But whatever happens specifically with this case, the bigger issue it represents is how challenging these decisions are and the consequences of what happens to families when the system gets it wrong. I mean, child abuse, as we all know, is obviously a huge problem in this country. It's striking. It's sad how pervasive it is. In the piece, we laid out how the government tracks those numbers. But what's not tracked are cases like tonight's story, where parents are not arrested or charged, but a family court judge removes children based on a medical misdiagnosis. But these stories rarely make headlines because, by nature, many of the details in family court remain confidential. But, Hallie, we're going to keep reporting on these stories, and thanks for the three-part series.
You're going to have home on the show for all that. Dan Slepian, we're glad to have you. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thanks so much, Hallie.
Of course. That does it for us for this hour. I will see you on Sunday on Nightly News. Thank you, as always, for watching. We've got more coverage picking up right now.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.